What is going on, everybody? It's Matt Marchese, also known as Islanders Daily, your home from everything from the four-time Stanley Cup champions, New York Islanders. And today's episode is a fun episode. As we all know, the On the Island documentary came out tonight. When you guys will be watching this, it will be tomorrow morning. So I just finished watching the documentary. It was about 25 minutes long. If you guys haven't watched it by the time this episode comes out, I really highly recommend it. And I'm just going to be kind of talking about my opinion on the episode as well as everything we saw, because it was such a cool episode, such a cool thing to watch, and it's so different from what we've experienced from the New York Islanders. I was so glad to see it, and I'm so happy that this is the future of the New York Islanders, where we will get more input on what goes on behind the scenes and everything like that. So to start it off, we're going to be talking about, just recapping everything that occurred and what I thought of the episode itself. So the episode started with us winning the lottery and hiring Darsh, as we all know. And then it transitions into Darsh introducing himself to Butch Goring, which was a really fun scene. Butch and him were talking. It seemed like Butch didn't really know what to say to Darsh, which was kind of funny. But, Butch said, hey, you better get us another one. And then it transitioned to the 4 Stanley Cups behind the Islanders. And Darsh said, you know what, that's the goal. That's the goal. And it was just such a fun, just seeing to see them, going back and forth talking. We then saw him talking to Anders Lee. And it was just such a cool thing to see, what we don't see as fans. Yes, we saw the introductory press conference of Darsh, but we don't see what, the players or the other workers of the Islanders really think of this. And we got to see it here with Butch talking to him, Darsh talking to him, saying, we're so proud to have you. And it was such a cool scene. It was just I really, really liked that. And then it just kind of talks about us hiring Darsh and why we hired Darsh, and it talks about how the Islanders liked his plan. Darsh, they liked his plan that they gave him. He was happy the Islanders did due diligence as well and just didn't rush on to him, per se. He was happy that he felt he deserved that job, and he earned that job. And that was really cool to see what Darsh was talking about on how he went about it. And then Darsh says he wants to build a team that the people are proud of and can make the playoffs every year. And I know every general manager is going to say that. If they don't say it, that's pretty troublesome. But it's just such a confidence booster that we have a new general manager speaking directly to the fans of what he wants from his team and how he's going to do it. He didn't full on put his plan because, of course, you can't do that when it's on a live public video for people to see. But it's just awesome to see that Darsh is being open to the fan base, being open about how this is what he wants and this is how he's going to do it. So, yeah, it was just really, really cool. Darsh also talked about his time in Tampa Bay when you really need everything to go right to win those Stanley Cups. It's not just talented teams or talent anything. You need luck. Luck is a big part in any sport when you think about it. Yes, you can be a great team, but if things don't go your way, you'll never win. Sometimes you just need a little luck on your side, and Darsh really talked about that, and it had one of my favorite transitions where he's talking about how you need luck sometimes to win. Yes, you have to be good, but sometimes you need to be a little lucky as well, and I loved how it transitioned right into the draft lottery of the Islanders winning it, which was pure luck. We had the 10th best odds. There was no reason we should have even won that lottery, and yet we did. We got Schaefer, number 1 overall, and just such an awesome scene talking about luck transitioning into that. And yeah, it was just super, super cool. However, my favorite part of this episode was the amateur scouting department scenes that we got to see of the combine, as well as the draft process, which I will be talking about in a few minutes. I really liked how they showed the amateur scouts interviewing players. It was such an awesome scene. And, obviously they probably talked about hockey to the players, but I really liked the questions they showed. It wasn't all about hockey. It was more about the person. What is your hobby? What is something you like to do other than hockey? And I really, really like that of the Islanders. As you can see, they're trying to build a team. Yes, hockey is fundamentally the most important thing, but you don't want people, you need to learn. It's essentially a job interview, and I really like the way that the scouts of the Islanders were interviewing these players and not just specifically focusing on hockey questions. You want to learn about the person and make sure they're a good fit for the team. And it was just such a cool scene, seeing them talking in those interviews and everything. You could tell right away they loved Daniil Prokhorov in his interview. He couldn't even speak English. He had a translator doing it for him, and he was still making them laugh. He just had that. He just is that guy. When you see him on that show, Prokhorov, he just seems like somebody you gravitate towards too. And I think the Islanders fell in love with him instantly from that scouting combine interview. And we saw them take him in the second round, and well-deserved. I'm really happy after seeing that interview with Prokhorov. It was very short. It was probably not even one sentence. That's all it was, one sentence. But right away, the scouts fell in love with Prokhorov, and it was just such a cool scene. I really love that scene. And, there was a beautiful scene with Matthew Schaefer in the interviewing process. It was just really, really nice, really, beautiful, as I said. And something that we fans, we don't get to see what goes on behind those closed doors. Obviously, more goes on than what we saw in this episode. But it was really, really nice to see on how everything goes down to. And I'm so glad that us Islander fans are truly starting to get to experience something new, where before it was always, quiet. We had no information. The only time we found things out is when they actually happened. So seeing it happen like this on this show, it was truly amazing. I'm so happy that I got to watch it. It was just such a cool thing. And the amateur scouting, it is so in-depth. And I like the quote in it. There was a good quote where Trent Klatt says, we haven't had first-round picks in a long time. So all the scouts were so excited that they were able to use their scouting that they did for first-round grades talent, and were actually being able to put it to use because they haven't had to do that in so long. And then during the scouting thing, we see him talking about Dobson and RFAs and everything, and he essentially said he's going to be nimble and do what's best for the Islanders. I know we heard it in the Pierre LeBrun interview that Darsh just did recently, which I talked about on this channel, but it's just so nice to see that Darsh is going to do whatever he can do to make the Islanders a winning organization. And he said in the interview he had one idea of what Dobson was worth, and then Dobson's agent had another idea, so the trade happened. That's all there was to it. The trade happened, and yeah, there's no animosity. It was cordial, but they both didn't see eye to eye, and Darsh quickly maneuvered. He said you have to be nimble, you have to adjust, and that's exactly what he did in trading Noah Dobson. And then from there, we get to see the whole look of the draft process, and it is awesome. That scene was awesome, seeing Darsh and all the scouts in the war room just talking about what players they want, who should go where, and it was huge. We actually did see that the Islanders did truly try and move up to try and draft James Higgins in this draft. We saw Darsh on the phone with the Bruins saying, hey, we didn't hear what the offer was. Obviously, you're not allowed to see what the offer would be. But we do see them on the phone, and he gets the call, and he says, the Bruins general manager says, we're going to make the pick. And Darsh looks at around the war room and says, hey, they're making the pick. And you could see they looked a little upset, a little defeated. But I think the problem with the stem is the people were trying to get the Islanders to offer more than what we should have, because everybody knew we wanted Higgins. Everybody knew Higgins probably wanted to be an Islander. But it didn't happen. It did not happen. But it was cool to see that whole process of Darsh trying to move up to draft James Higgins. And that wasn't the end of the phone calls. We heard him talking about potentially trading down from 16 or 17 or even both to try and improve the team. But Trent Klatt again says, hey, we got two guys in our top 12. If they fall to us, I'm going to do cartwheels. And it showed a cool picture of Aitchison and Eklund. And Darsh said, it'd be great to have them, but they won't fall to us. So Darsh had no confidence that Aitchison and Eklund would fall to us. And that was really funny because the scouts are like, come on, stay positive. But maybe Darsh was trying like an anti-jinx thing. He didn't want to jinx it or anything. But lo and behold, Eklund and Aitchison did fall to us, and we got to draft them. We got those two guys, and Trent Klatt didn't do the cartwheels. He was actually in disbelief that Eklund and Aitchison fell to them. He couldn't believe it. And I like the scene when it showed who the Canucks picked. You can see all the scouts pump their fists like, wow, we actually got the two guys who were in our top 12 at 16, 17. And it was just awesome. It was such an awesome scene. And, I didn't realize it, man, but these players, the second year drafted, it's right to work, man. You're getting calls left and right. Left and right, left and right. Anders Lee, Bo Horvat, Matthew Darsh, Matthew Barzal, probably even more people calling him. So it's a busy time. And obviously, I know it's a busy time, but it was just really funny to kind of see how busy it truly is for these kids when they get drafted. And yeah, it was just such a fun episode, such a fun show. And I'm so glad we as Islanders fans finally get to experience a show. A show that shows the Islanders. It's been so long since the Islanders themselves have had any personality. I'm sure we've had personality on the team. I mean, we know we've had personality on the team, but the team itself has had no personality until now. The Islanders are back with the personality, and it is so exciting to see. It is an exciting time for Islanders fans, and be sure to focus up, watch these episodes as they release. It was such a great show, and I'm so excited for the season now. I just can't wait. I can't wait for the season to start now. Last year, I was a little down and out. I'll admit it. I was a little down and out. We didn't do anything new. Lou Lamoriello was still quiet. It was just, the same old, same old. And, change is hard, yes. Change is obviously hard, but sometimes change is needed to make the people. Sometimes people need a change to feel better, feel good. And with the Islanders, it was just kind of the same thing over and over and over. And it was time for a change. The Islanders made the change, and it truly is a new era, and we saw in this show tonight. So, thank you all for tuning in to this recap episode of the show. And honestly, if you have not watched it, I go and watch it right away. Just watch the show. It was so fun. It was such a great episode, great show, and I would recommend it to anyone. So please, if you watch this recap before the show, just go and watch the show. Just go and watch the show, because I didn't go as in depth with it as the show will. Of course, I don't want to spoil the whole show for people if they don't watch it. I just kind of wanted to give my opinion on it. So yeah, definitely go watch the show. And as always, let's go Islanders.